Hey there, it's Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing. I'm back again for another edition of Social Media Pie. And today I have a very special guest with me, Greg Coyne. Greg, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brenda. Thanks for having me on today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure seeing you again. It's been a little while since we've seen each other in person, Greg. And, I want to fill people in on the way that we met. So we were both speakers at the Sterling Heights Chamber Sales and Marketing Conference. Was that in 2018, 19? When was it? Was it 18?
It was. It seems like just yesterday, but all the days are flying together now. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I was on a call this morning and they're like, happy Thursday. And I'm like, oh, today's Thursday. I thought yesterday was Thursday. Like I didn't think today was Friday, but it was like a half the day yesterday. I thought it was Thursday.
So here's a real quick, serious side note. Tomorrow, halfway through May.
Oh my gosh. Like where did that all happen so quickly? So Greg and I met, we were at the Sales and Marketing Conference. It was Melanie Davis who invited me. I'm sure she probably invited you too. And they had an interesting format. It was kind of like a speed round. What was it? 15-minute segments. It was quick. I remember.
It was 15 to 20 minutes, somewhere in there. It was super fast.
Yeah, but it was kind of like a speed round. And Greg, and I can't remember, who was it that you were presenting with? It was someone else from your...
Nick DiMaggio.
Yes, thank you. And they were like right in front of me, and I was kind of like after them leading the pack. So and I think we sat next to each other at the table and we just connected and we've stayed in contact since. And I really liked your presentation style, Greg. And I brought you out to my LinkedIn-a-thon last year. So that was a lot of fun, teaching people tips. And we've just stayed connected. So, Greg was one of the people when I first got access to LinkedIn Live, I started making I literally had like you guys a Post-it note, like, here are the people I'm going to invite. And Greg was one of those people. And I reached out and I'm like, I know it's kind of a weird time with COVID and everything going on, but I know the work that you're doing is still necessary. So let's have a conversation. So Greg said, sure, I'll come out. We're going to be talking about maximizing your team's performance today. Before we do so, a couple things. First, if you guys see that little ticker that's kind of running below, please comment below. Let us know where you're watching from. So take a moment, if you could, and comment, whether you're watching us live on LinkedIn or live on Facebook. Let us know. Hello from Metro Detroit. Hello from my living room. Hello from Uganda. Wherever you're watching from, let us know. And then as we're having the conversation today, if you'd like to add to that conversation, drop your comments in chat. About halfway through our interview here today, I'll pause and I'll give you guys a shout out. So if you say hello, I will say hello back to you. And we'll have a lot of fun here. So Greg, let's get this conversation started. Why don't we start with, for those people who don't know you and what you do, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So first thing is I'm with Jerry Weinberg and Associates, Sandler Training, and we're headquartered out of Southfield. I would say this, though, nowadays we are headquartered out of Plymouth, Michigan, because that's where I am. That's where my home is. But it has been... first, so who we're helping is typically clients will contact us either online or in person, or will be referred in. And we're handling the presidents and C-level execs of the company. At least that's where we start. And they typically want to bring us in to talk about how their sales teams are doing. I love it. Look at you got your pies in the background. I love this.
This is the first time when I was on with, who was it? 2 days ago, Ira Bowman. I think it was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, and we both use StreamYard to do lives. And he's like, hey, did you know that you can adjust in your settings in the background? Let me show you guys too, because I'm always like behind the scenes showing you guys. I'm sorry to jump in here, Greg, but like,
do it.
You can have like just the black background, or there's like this one with the little leaves or something, or you can put like something branded. And I'm like, my series is called Social Media Pie. So he's like, some pie in the background. But yeah, I love it. I hope you don't mind. I threw your web site up on screen as you're talking a little bit about your company.
No, that's perfect. Because this is part of my give back. I want to make sure that those that were on had access to, and I'll speak to that in a moment. Just so that the audience knows, typically we're helping companies with their customer care, their management and leadership, or their sales and the execution of said sales. And so on what you have up right now is our Sandler Education Learning Library. So there's over 300 hours of podcasts, tips, white papers. It's all free. So you have it at the bottom there. You connect to that, jerryweinberg.sandler.com/sell. and type in and register, and you'll have access for 12 months. So it is a great way to kind of dip your toe in if you're like, all right, what's Sandler all about? It's a great way to do it. So yeah, for a lot of us, I've been doing this for almost 8 years now. I was a client 3 years prior to when I started with Jerry and the team. And I found him in the 08-09 downturn, which was interesting. I was a salesperson for CBS Outdoor at the time, and I was doing a little bit of struggling, and Jerry's like, well, why don't you come in and check us out? And I did, and that was it. And 2.5 years later, they were looking, and I went to Jerry and said, hey, what about me? And Jerry Weinberg style, he said, well, what about you, Coyne?
Yeah.
And so we went back.
I'm thinking of that song, What About Me? Like, I'm talking about, what about me?
I love it, because that's really what it was.
Right.
And so, you know, the rest is history.
Awesome.
And been doing it ever since. So yeah.
That's awesome. So great kind of background and a little plug. And I appreciate the free resources that you're offering. I'm going to check it out myself, guys. So I actually, so when I set up these interviews, I always ask people, I'm like, tell me your LinkedIn URL, give me your website. What's the topic? And I usually just pull the website up, like literally, you guys, like 5 minutes before Greg joined the call, I pulled the web page up. So I hadn't even looked at it myself. I know I'm a great interviewer, right? Like I'm like prepped and, you know, go through my notes.
You knew me going in. It is all good.
Yeah. But even like as we were getting prepped, you know, I'll probably show some folks our props. You know, we were talking a little bit before the call. And we were getting the lighting set and everything else. But I was telling people, like, Greg's the kind of guy that, you know, he and I can just vamp. Like, I feel like we have good friendly banter going back and forth, and he doesn't need a lot of prep time. Like, you'll just, if something happens, you'll kind of flex with it. And you're a very adaptable person. So that's a theme for this week, adaptability, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So let's jump into this conversation now about managing your team's performance, Greg, and tell us a little bit about kind of what's your knowledge and passion on the subject, and then kind of walk us through some of your tips there.
Sure. And so there's a couple things. It's passionate from both ends of the spectrum. And what I mean by that is management and leadership typically are frustrated with how their sales team is performing. It doesn't matter how great their teams are. We typically, as managers, are frustrated with one person, or maybe it's the whole collective group. But here's part of the problem. When we're managers or leaders, a lot of times we're results driven. I mean, all of us as business owners are looking at the end result. How do we get there? Well, we have to slowly backtrack on some of this stuff. Part of my personality is the same as a lot of business owners. We want results. How are we getting there? I want to go from point A to point B, and I don't want to have to spend any time during that journey. Part of the problem is that we're not measuring what we need to do to get to point B from point A. And so we don't have the behaviors or the leading indicators, as a lot of people call them, to understand how we're getting these results. A lot of people will say, oh, look at so-and-so is earning $4 million and you're only generating $2 million. What's the problem? Well, part of the problem is, as managers or as leaders, we don't know what they've been doing to have those results, nor have we instituted any kind of tracking mechanisms to be able to generate the behaviors that will generate the results. So a lot of times we start with just simple, techniques or formulas to start them on their way. One thing that I always love my wife. So my wife has a team that she works with at NSF International. There's a shameless plug for my wife's company.
Is she watching right now? Or is she in like the other room?
No, they're actually, what's funny is they're in a town hall. So everybody within the company is logged into their Blue Jeans account and is watching to see what's coming out. And but they had instituted this a long time ago, and I always have told my clients to do it. And it's just a morning huddle. And now most companies have had to institute that because they want to know remotely how their people are doing. And a remote huddle is super simple. You start the day with that. I know some people that institute 2 of them, one at the beginning of the day, one at the end of the day.
I like that.
I only institute typically with our clients 1 at the beginning. I always say, depending on the size of the team, 5 to 15 minutes, and 3 questions that every person should be able to answer from the sales team is this. It's, Give us one success personally or professionally that you had from the day before.
Okay.
What are the three, we call them the 3 2s. So what 3 professional items, what are your 3 top things that you have to do no matter what? You got to get done. If they're not done at 6 o'clock, you're sticking around to do them. What are those 3 things you have to do professionally? And what are the 2 things personally that you have to do? Okay. Because we find it's both sides, Brenda. It's not just, one or the other. It's both that are going to push you to do it. And then what help do you need from me?
Yeah. So the personal is part of that. Like, well, I'm homeschooling my kids, and my daughter's got a 2:30 phone call today that I need to make sure. I mean, is that a personal one, or is it more like time management type of thing?
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, look at it. Think of it this way, and I always go back to Darren Hardy and Jim Rohn, and they talk about eating the frog from the Mark Twain statement.
Eating the frog. Okay, pull us through that one. Yeah.
So think about it. What's the thing you do? Eating frogs is not exactly the most exciting thing, and most people don't want to do it. It's kind of like Brussels sprouts. That's what I always
love Brussels sprouts.
I knew you were going to tell me that. I knew you were going to tell me that.
You put some garlic, some olive oil, salt and pepper, slice them on the oven for about 30 minutes. Oh, that's
look at that.
Parmesan
cheese afterwards. Brenda. Look at you. I will do that. But here's the key. I always attribute, if it's a good vegetable, you have to do minimum things to it.
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts, you got to do some things to it.
Yeah. Good. I just feel like it's good. It just makes me feel good. I love green vegetables and greens and stuff like that.
I'm right there with you. I know that my wife's gotten better at it, and so I have to figure out different ways to dress up some veggies. So
yeah.
What was I going to say with it?
I don't know. We were talking about you were feeding a frog or something at some point. Yeah.
So eat the frog. So at the beginning of the day, you should know the top 3 things that you want to do and knock them out first. Yep. Okay. No matter the time, that's where you block them, get them done. The rest of the day is gravy. Do those 3 hardest things first, knock them out early, be done with it. And part of that, I know that you talked about it earlier, if I can let people in on that.
Yeah, please do. Go ahead. Yeah.
So Brenda talked about having an accountability partner or group that she meets with on a daily basis. And so those are things that you can talk about, whether you're in a huddle or you do an accountability group, or there's an accountability partner that you have that you deal with on a daily or weekly basis. Those are the things that are important to you in order to complete the day or week. So what are those 3 things? What are those couple things that you need to do? And those are the things you should knock out first. So eating the frog is how they position it.
Okay. Is it eating the frog or feeding the frog?
It's eating the frog, because no one typically, I like frog legs actually, but most people don't like frogs. Yeah. So are you eating it? And it's like, Yeah. And if you look it up, it comes back from, I think Mark Twain is the one who originated the phrase.
Okay. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clever. Okay. I thought you were going to show something with your timer. So.
I do have that.
We were talking about props, right? So what is that?
So you want to show them yours?
Yeah. Go ahead and show me yours first, though.
Okay. So this is, I literally bought an old school timer. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason is it's real easy for all of us to use our phones nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay. But you need that. Sometimes the body and the mind needs a little bit of the old school treatment. So if there's something that I need to do, like my frogs, I will set a timer. I will set it typically for 25 minutes. Nothing else gets in the way of that. Not my wife, not the rain, not Brenda, not myself. I have to do that focused item, and I do it for 25 minutes. And once the ringer goes, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm done. I knock it out. It's over. Now, if I've completed it, great. If I haven't, I'm going to put it aside. I've committed that time for it.
Okay. Love it. And it makes it, and I like that it is an old school, because you can say, oh, I'll pull up my phone. And then what happens as soon as you pull up the phone? Oh, there's an Instagram notification, squirrel. And I get diverted, and I'm like, and then 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, shoot, I didn't do that timer. But that is kind of, you can set it in front of you, and it dings right at the end. You feel good, like the little the Pavlov's dog. Your mouth starts watering when the bell dings or something.
Thank you. So we need those. We need those things.
It's a little bonus. So what I did, I have like some props when I do presentations and stuff. And this is one of the props that I have for my home. You guys see this? It's got a little ladybug on it, and it's a bell. It's like when you go to the deli counter or a help desk and you ring the bell. And whenever I book a new client, do you hear that? The little bell dings. And if my door was open in my office right now, my daughter in the other room might go, "Did you get a new client?" Like she knows like what the bell means. And even when I first started doing my business, I would ring the bell when I would get new clients, and she would go like, "Can I ring the bell? How many?" And she would come in and say, "How many times can I ring the bell today?" And I'm like, 2 times,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm a huge proponent of ringing the bell. We have that's one of the old school ways of doing it. I would say this too. What is it? Not White Christmas, but A Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. The bell. Yeah.
Every time a bell rings,
an angel gets his wings.
There it is. I love it.
Yeah. So anyways, going back, I know we went out a little sideways there, which is what happens when you get two people like us in a conversation, right, Greg? We're like,
lots of squirrels. Lots of squirrels.
Yes. So go ahead. So I'll let you keep going.
Oh, so part of what we do is setting them up for success.
Right.
And that's how we do it from a management side. What are you tracking? What are you going through? Some of the things that we also talk about from a management standpoint is what are those weekly meetings that you're doing for your salespeople? You should have a weekly meeting. Shouldn't be more than 30 minutes. I think a lot of times us as leaders, we're very skilled at keeping our time. We're good at time blocking. But we're also concerned whether there's an important or unimportant meeting that gets in the way. Our salespeople need us, okay? They don't need us micromanaging us unless they need help, and then they need help, not micromanagement. And there's a difference. So one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing is checking in with them. Mm-hmm. So should be 30 minutes. We always end with a success. All right. And so I want to know, what's their cookbook look like? So here's the thing. Mm-hmm. In Sandler, we use the cookbook term as a recipe for success.
Love it.
And so we track everything. So we start small. So what are your first appointments ever? How many of those have you had for the week? Mm-hmm. How many transactions did you get? How many closing meetings did you get? Mm-hmm. How many events did you go to or sit in on? How many referrals did you ask for, receive, and also give? Those are just a few examples that I like to give, because those are things that I track on a weekly basis and a daily basis. But you also have to understand what they're doing and how is that relating to the results. You got to start somewhere. So don't think about instituting 15 different trackable items for your team. Think small. Think 5 to 6 at most, just to start.
So let me ask you a question there, Greg. What I heard you say was kind of document what you're doing. And it's kind of like a success orientation towards tracking results. What I didn't hear you say is, why didn't you do X, or why didn't you achieve X goal? And there's different forms of leadership and instituting and instilling performance in your people. And there's the motivating and inspiring, kind of that servant leadership approach, right? And then there's the management by fear and intimidation. Why didn't you do those things? Why are you do you not want your job? Do you want me to fire you? And where you're motivated only to do as much as you need to not get in trouble versus, and I liked when you say, let's start with, okay, what did you do? Like focusing on your successes. So thoughts on that kind of concept?
Yeah. So here's what's beautiful, and they all will tie in together. Mm-hmm. The management, sales, customer service, they're all tied together. Part of it is, you'll notice that it all stems, the oversimplification of it is this: it's all about communication. And so you said it best. I like to, and I'll phrase it this way: the carrot or the whip. Yeah. A lot of times people are motivated by that. But a lot of times, here's the funny thing: most people anymore, especially in sales, aren't motivated by extrinsic things. They're not motivated by money. And I know that for a lot of leaders out there, that blows their mind. But the fact is, they're motivated by other things. And my question to the audience and any leader or manager out there is, what's motivating your team? Because if you think it's money, yeah, it might be part of it, but why? What is it with money that's motivating it? And how do you potentially find out what their motivators are and tie it back to the company's goal? Those two have to be tied together. The other part is, we typically, as both internal and external customers, and I'll explain that term in a moment, there's usually a missing link. And what I mean by internal and external customers is this. External customers are clients, are customers that we bring into our fold. Our internal customers, those are our fellow employees. And a lot of times we forget about the internal part. We're really good at going out and grabbing new business, but we forget what we need to do internally to keep our people happy, keep them motivated, and understand what's driving them. And that hopefully, and I say it hopefully because right now, if it's not being done, I can only hope. But the fact is that in those internal meetings, those morning huddles, those 30-minute meetings that you're doing with those individual salespeople, those are things that we should be learning about with our team. And we should, just like we are with external clients, we should be really good at asking open-ended questions with our internal clients. So how are we formulating our questions with our people? And you brought it up right there a moment ago, which I thought was perfect. Hey, Brendan, why didn't you do X instead of? So when you got done this week, what were some of the things that got in your way? What are some of the things that you noticed that we're already tracking that maybe we should be tracking more of, less of, or that we don't even have down? Those are questions that should spur a conversation as opposed to, being judgmental. Yeah. It never gets us anywhere. And part of the problem is, think about us as kids. No matter how great our parents were, at certain points, they were frustrated with life. And they may have had a tone that we took personally as a little kid. Yeah. The same thing goes when we're managing our people and understanding and leading our people. They don't want to be talked to like that. And most of the times they'll become either judgmental themselves, or they'll pull back, or they can become a little kid again and fire back questions that poke at us. Yeah. So we've got to understand a lot more just communication and human behavior.
So what I love what you're talking about right now is it's a lot of like, how do you get more out of your team, out of your people? And you're really kind of talking towards the people who are managers and leaders for that approach. Now, what if, I'm guessing there's a couple people watching right now who are members of a team who are working under a tyrant leader, right? That person who maybe has their favorites, and those are the golden child, the golden child, kind of the chosen few, if you will, and they can do no wrong. And, you have to, who those people are, but there's the everybody else, and everybody else is the problem. And why, can't you do this? And you need to do this. And, they're instilling fear and they're intimidating your people. They're not motivated. So what about those people that are watching this today, Greg? What can they do to get their companies to reach out and hire you? Like, I'm being blunt with this. Like, they're like, thank you, Greg, you have a life preserver, but my manager won't take that from you because they don't believe in that. So what advice do you have for that situation?
So that's kind of funny because for a very long time, I had a self-limiting belief that if a manager didn't want to do it, it wasn't going to happen. And so I changed that belief maybe about a year or so ago. And I brought in some salespeople that had that very issue, and they wanted themselves to be better. They wanted their team to be better. They wanted their managers to be better. And what they did is slowly but surely got themselves involved, and they got management involved and told them why they were doing what they were doing. And of course, that's a difficult conversation. Right. It's not to say that they were doing a poor job, but they all had separate goals. And so they wanted to meet those goals. And in order to do that and change some of the way that they did things, they knew that everybody had to be open to change. And so when we talk to any organization, there's a few things that we talk to them about. One segment is understanding the skills, staff, structure, and strategy that they want to be able to currently do. And if they're not currently doing it, change to better themselves. The other is this. When I'm talking to a team, typically they're going to change for 3 reasons. And believe it or not, the one thing that does not stop them is dollars. So a lot of people are like, look, I don't run from it. We're an investment. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that's typically, that is a mindset that I have, that money will never be in the way of someone that wants to join us for what we do, whether it's a company or team. The 2 biggest things though on that triangle that do stop them are time.
Okay.
not being willing to invest in time to make those changes, or having an open mind, which is it's not always this, but sometimes there's the old adage of, I want to be the dumbest person in the room, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Okay? I want other people that are smarter, that are creative, that bring ideas that I haven't had to the table to make me think differently. Okay. But sometimes there's people in the room that want to be the smartest. And so a lot of times they don't have that open mind or that willingness to want to do some things differently. So ultimately, where I'm going with what you asked was, get us in. If they feel that they want to make a change, they're going to be our white knight, so to speak. And they're going to have to bring us in. And we're first going to have a conversation to understand what they are doing right and want to change them individually as a salesperson.
Right.
Because by the way, if there's a team of 10 and they're 9 or 10, we probably should look at what they're doing or not doing first before we cast stones on glass houses. Okay. Second of all, though, if they are doing well and they want to improve themselves, they'll probably bring more credibility to the table to talk to their managers or leaders about wanting to make a change and make the team better. So that's the first step. Talking with me, having a conversation, and figuring out what needs to be changed within them, and then looking at the team as a whole and how we go from there.
Awesome. And I just popped into LinkedIn. I'm looking at my screen and I'm not ignoring you, Greg, but popped on my screen. And I actually do see some really good questions that are coming in, and I'm going to jump in the middle of it to segue into our first question. And then I'll remind you guys too, if you haven't left a comment below, drop a comment below now. Let us know where you're watching from, or if you have any kind of observations on this topic of team performance, carrot stick or carrot whip, type of thing. But one question from Don Habrick. Hey, Don, how are you doing? Don asks the question, Greg, at what point does performance management become a stick instead of a carrot? So this is the flip side of that, which is, okay, when do you stop being all soft and, touchy-feely and embracing your people and being the cheerleader to, all right, you're being lazy and you got to get your HIT together. I mean, whatever. That's good.
I love how you were just a mom there for a second.
I was like, is LinkedIn gonna ban me if I say that word? They might, and I don't want to get banned. But I'm also like, I'm probably in the video. I'll be like, bleep.
I love it. So I think first of all, that's a great question, and I think it goes back to one of the best things about Sandler that we talk about, and that is upfront contracts. So first things first, an upfront contract definition is a mutual agreement between two parties on what's going to happen next so that there's no surprises. Typically, when we're training upfront contracts, we're doing it in a sales environment, but they can be played anywhere. Okay, they can be played within a management to salesperson, a colleague to colleague, at home with your kids. All right. So typically what's happening though is in the role that we are talking about, when is, the touchy-feely turn into a stick or a whip? Well, first of all, how did we set it up from the beginning? We always get people that, hey, how do I close more? Well, typically the problem is in the beginning. How'd you open? And it's the same when it comes to management and leading. So how are we opening up the conversation or starting their transition into our sales force? Everybody knows how, there's expectations that are put into play on how they can be successful. Yeah. They also need to know how they cannot be successful. And how do we advance within an organization? But we also have to know, and here's a sensitive way of saying it, how someone can get fired. Yeah. And so if we're not setting up credentials, if we're not setting up behaviors in the beginning, then we're doing ourselves and our people a disservice. So they should never misunderstand what's happening. There should never be any surprises throughout their journey. If they're not doing the behaviors and the results aren't coming, it's probably because of said behaviors aren't being accomplished. Yeah. And so as we go along, we have to understand, all right, so what's getting in the way of X? And typically, this is what I've known from our people, Brenda, is typically when you have to let someone go, believe it or not, they're probably 100 days past when they should have been let go. Yeah, that's very true. And there's a reason for that, because there's a timeline from HR, there's a documentation process and all this other stuff
that comes along with it. Can I say crap? I don't know. I just did twice.
You did, but I love it.
I feel like that's softer, right?
Definitely.
I'll bleep that out too, because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. Bleep. This is going to be like all the expletives flying, you know.
You'd be like Jimmy Kimmel in the what is it, unintended bleeps that he does. Fantastic little clip you can go out to on
like
YouTube.
Unintentional, like they're not really saying anything wrong. It's the cartoon characters.
Yes, exactly.
But what were we talking about? I totally lost train.
No, I love it. So Don was saying the question that he asked was, how do you go from softening to maybe a whip, or where does that translate? And I think the ultimate answer is, how do you set it up from the beginning? Everyone should know what the expectations are, and if they're not met, how they could potentially be dismissed.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And setting clear expectations up. But I think going back to the point of when you have underperforming or non-performing team members or people who are skating the system and taking advantage of it, sometimes, and Greg, you've probably seen this in sales teams, it can be the best salesperson, but it's a toxic salesperson. They're creating a toxic environment within the organization, and they're actually demotivating the rest of the team, and they can actually be costing your company money in the long run. But they're in that little protected circle because, Greg's our superstar sales guy, and yeah, he does things that we're not crazy about, but man, he's pulling in the millions for us every year. So we'll just let him, right? So what's your advice there? What's your advice there for team members who have that person, or for managers who are managing and they may be aware of it, but willing to let that person slide?
So I'm glad you asked. You have to figure out what's more important, your culture or your dollars. And no one should be above the law, so to speak. I can tell a story that we had, and I still remember because I know these people personally, and they were, I still remember some of the conversations I was involved with Jerry, talking to a client where the owner of the company had his best salesperson, and that person was, for lack of a better way of saying it, was a bit of a prima donna. They were driving business. They were number one, but they were killing culture. And they were also, it was becoming a little tense with some clients as well. Yeah. And that was probably that was arguably the bottom line, or the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah. And they had to let him go. And it cost them, money in the beginning, because that person drove new business. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they were able to make up for it and excel. And it definitely improved their culture and made it what it is today. So they were then a successful company, and they're still a successful company. Mm-hmm. But you have to make a decision at the beginning in your business, what's more important. And you have to see where people are driving business, where they're not, and how are they affecting culture with their other fellow employees. Mm-hmm. And if it's driving things down, morale, it will probably cause an effect to the bottom line somewhere. Mm-hmm. You'll have people leave, which will also, cause a shakeup. So you have to take a look at how much is it costing you to have this person on board.
Right. Love it. Really good tip there. And it's not just what you see at face value. It's the culture impact and kind of the bottom line, the ripple down effect. I really like that answer. Yep. So Greg, let's take a moment and let's see who's online with us. We'll give some shout outs to those folks, and then we'll open it up to Q&A as well. If you guys have questions, drop those in the comments. And I'm going to remind you guys too, let me just pop back onto my StreamYard here for a second. If you do ask your question on Facebook, if you go to facebook.com/MellerMarketing, I can put your question up on screen. LinkedIn doesn't allow that yet. I don't like people to leave LinkedIn if you're on there, but if you happen to be watching this on Facebook, you can ask us a question and I can pop it up on screen. So let me give some shout outs here. So Greg, we are international. We have Gandharv here watching us from India this morning.
Love it.
We've got Kathy Mott from Shelby Township. Hey, Kathy, she was on one of my lives about a month or so back. I'll try to drop her link in the comments below so you guys can watch that. We have Nirmal joining us from India as well. We have Liz from Southfield, Michigan. Hey, Liz, how are you? We have Shelly joining us from Kentucky. We have Aaron Kamenoff joining us from a stormy West Bloomfield. And I'm hearing the thunder behind me right now. Greg, are you hearing it yet where you're at?
Oh, it's been bad. I know that my camera Mike tends to pick up all the stuff. And yeah, it is absolutely pouring here in Plymouth. Yeah. So
I'm hoping
it's not too distracting.
Yeah, I'm hoping like nothing kind of pops in the background, storm-wise or power goes out or anything while we're doing this. But hey, you guys know if you watch me live, I don't ever make mistakes. I always call them learning experiences. And I'm hoping we don't have any storm learning experiences today. Let's see who else is on. Let's see. Joanne Thompson. Hello from fabulous Ferndale. I love how Ferndale's kind of a fabulous. I love the alliteration of that. So thank you for watching us. Pam Lippett joining us from her dining room table. Hey, Pam, how are you? Love it. It's the home office, right? Don Hedrick fully agrees with me on the Brussels sprouts. Don, I really like you. Thank you, sir. I'm seriously, when I get off, I'm going to bake my Brussels sprouts. My son.
That's awesome.
No, it's like
I'm glad I inspired.
Joanne Thompson says, love this idea. Sounds like a condensed EOS model. Are you familiar with EOS?
I am. Okay. I am. Great company. And I say Gino Wickman has built a powerhouse out of Livonia, and it's gone worldwide. So
it's EOS. Is it from Michigan originally?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I say Gino is from Michigan. He's, I believe, Livonia area. At least he started it there. Yeah. There's I think there's 30 implementers in the state of Michigan. Great tool, great structure. It's fantastic.
Awesome. That's very cool. Hey, I might ask you his information for a future LinkedIn Live because I've been hearing a lot about EOS.
Hey, I'm going to connect you with some EOS implementers. They're good people. And someone brought it up a while ago. They said that they're kind of the skeleton and Sandler's kind of the muscle behind it. So
love it. Kind of complimentary. Yeah. So we have Alan who says, good idea. Aaron says old school alarm clocks without snooze. Do you remember those, Greg? I mean, that's
yes. I still have. I still love my old alarm clock. I'm like, it's digital. That's about as new age as it goes.
Same. And I don't know about you, but I don't have my alarm clock on my nightstand because I do the snooze.
You have it across the room.
I set it across the room, and I drink a lot of water before I go to bed at night. So as soon as I get up to go hit the alarm, I got to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, now I'm up. I'm not going to go back. I got to trick myself into waking up in the morning because I can't trust myself.
It's habit. That's good.
We were talking before we got on the call today, and Greg's like, he was on. I started the session, then I was like petering around the room and working on stuff, and then I came on and he was there already, and I was like, oh, good, you're early. He's like, yeah, I never want to be late. And I'm like a proverbial always late person. I get like in a panic of being the first one there. Even for my group session in the morning, the 6:30 call, I don't want to be the first one on, so I'll wait until 6:30 and then I'll join. But it's personality. All right, so let's see. We have Randall joining us from New Orleans. Alan asks a question, and this will be a question for you, Greg. How do we check team member performance when it's work from home, and how can we cross-check with what they're saying that it's true?
Okay, so this is a good question because, and shameless plug, in the coming weeks, you can look online. I'm doing selling remotely. I've done it with a couple of chambers and associations recently. And it also goes to managing remotely. A lot of people, at least managers, leaders, are kind of struggling with that right now, and it's okay. Really simple answer is nothing should change from what you did before, meaning you should be tracking the behaviors, and they should be reporting back those said behaviors. You should be setting up a Zoom call or a virtual call, doing the huddles each day in the morning, and you should also be setting those, 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how long you want to set it for, weekly huddles with your salespeople. And what are you tracking? It's still the same things. First appointments ever, how many, because to me, here's the thing. This is something that managers and leaders ask about all the time. Well, aren't you counting the calls? I count contacts or attempts. It's easier because a lot of times people have head trash. That's a Sandler term. They have these thoughts, these self-limiting beliefs. And that, I need to track all these calls. I can't make these calls. Look, I want to know, are you reaching out on LinkedIn? Are you reaching out on your email? Are you making a call? Are you getting referrals? I don't care how you get to someone. I want to know that you're doing it. Right. So take away the self-limiting belief of, I've got to make all these calls. Yeah, you should. But the fact of the matter is how many attempts. And if you're tracking those behaviors, the results will come. And if the results aren't coming, we as managers and leaders get to go back and ask about that. So if someone's saying, hey, I'm making 250 calls a week, say 50 calls a day. All right. And when they're starting in the business, they may have to make that many. But the fact is that they should be getting meetings and qualified meetings, and those results should come. if they're quote unquote saying that they're making all these calls and the results aren't coming, one of two things is probably happening. One, they aren't doing it. Or two, maybe they're not skilled enough to do it. Maybe the technique is a little off. And as managers and leaders, we need to help them with that.
Yeah.
So to answer, it was Alan, right?
I think so. Yep. Alan.
Yeah. So to answer his question as a whole, nothing should be different. We should be tracking this stuff, having morning huddles and weekly meetings with our people in order to understand the behaviors that are happening in order to achieve the results.
It just made me think of something when you're talking about people doing outreach, and you'll love the story, Greg. So I got a phone call, and it was like, I usually don't answer phone numbers from people I don't know, but it was like, I don't know, I'm in Metro Detroit, so it was either a 248 or a 586. I'm like, okay, it's somebody from the area who's calling me. So I picked up the phone, and this was, I think this was right before COVID, everything started closing down, but it was still when we were doing coffee meetings, but it was like probably February at that point. And he said, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I can't remember his name. I'm not going to shout him out or anything, but he said, hi, my name is so-and-so. Hey, I'm calling from XYZ company. How's your day going? And I was kind of like, fine. And I'm like, I knew it was a sales call right away. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I came across your business card, and I was just wondering if you might want to meet for coffee for some networking sometime. And I said, oh, where did you get where'd you find my business card from? So now I'm softening a little bit, because I'm like, okay, I gave him permission, gave him my card at some point. And I said, well, where was it? And he's like, well, I don't know. I found some cards, and I just figured, and right away I was like, like, what was that? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, dude, make it up. Be like, I saw you speaking, like, look me up online and like say something. But he's like, I don't know. And I could tell right away he didn't really care. Like, we met someplace somewhere. I found your card. So I thought we could have a chat to get to know each other and, figure out if we can refer business back and forth. And I don't know, I feel like he was financial services or insurance. I don't know. Categorically, I feel like that's where he was. But I was like, well, I've actually made a commitment to myself this year to really focus my time and energy on networking events or client engagement. So I hope you can appreciate I've decided not to do the coffee meetups anymore, just because I'm trying to keep my time focused. Because if I make a coffee meeting and I said, I'm here, you're there, it's going to, take me a half hour, 45 minutes to drive over. We're going to meet for an hour. It's going to take another half hour, 40 minutes. That's 3 hours of my day, just getting to know you and I said, and I'm just trying to be very conscientious about time management. And he got kind of like irritated with me at this point. Well, why are you passing out business cards at events? And if you don't want to network with people? And I was like, all right, we're done here.
Yeah.
But I should have said, you should talk to Greg Coyne, because he does some really great events about networking. There was no proper way, but I was like, I got off the call, and I think I told my husband about it, but it was like cold calling. I mean, I know there's a cold calling 101, but that would make for a hilarious blog or article, Greg. Like, here's what not to do, when you're. But can
I speak to that real quick? Because it's something that I heard in all of that really touched a chord with me. Mm-hmm. And that is how his tone was and how he presented himself. Like, he had me right up until he couldn't come up with something on how he found your card. But the one thing I'll say is this. Look, sales is not a place to get your needs met. Business isn't a place to get your needs met either. And I heard in his statement it sounded defensive. It sounded like, well, why don't you want to meet with me? Yeah. And here's the thing. You're going to get a lot of no's. And I'll use my colleague, Matt Stevens, a total plug to my team. One of the things he always likes to use as an analogy is, in getting no's is think about a wait staff, someone who is waiting tables. At the end of the meal, they come to your table, and before they give you a check, they ask if you'd like dessert or coffee with that. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, most people will probably say no. Now, at the end of the day, they're not throwing off their apron and leaving because someone told them no. Away. Right. So the fact is that they aren't looking to get their needs met. Okay, their job is to do the best they can in terms of getting the food out in a proper fashion, delivering it, being polite, friendly, asking, cordial, conversational, all those things. And they're going to get some no's during that. So in the call, all he had to do is really simply was say, you know what, you're probably right. And especially the way things are now, might even make sense to have a Zoom call. Because that's something to be open to. Yeah. I know I probably wasn't going anywhere, but the fact is it's not about him. Yeah. And that's the key to remember about sales. It's never about you.
Yeah. Good question or good response. And I appreciate that hearing that point of view. I doubt that he's watching. Maybe he's watching. And like I said, I'm not giving any details so you can figure out who this person is. But I think we all know who that person. I mean, we have people in our network that do the cold call. And I got a cold call yesterday I signed up for a webinar, and it's one of these, like, the free webinar. You know, when you sign up for a free webinar, there's going to be a sales pitch somewhere. And it must have been, I put my phone number on the form. I don't remember. But she called and she said, hey, you were registered for the webinar. Do you have any questions? I think it was a Salesforce. And she said, do you have any questions about Salesforce? And I said, no, but I'm probably not the right fit for you. I said, I'm self-employed. I have a CRM system I'm using. I actually did register for the webinar, but I couldn't attend. But I'm not interested in looking at a system right now. And she said, okay. And she was very gracious. And the way she kind of went through the process, she was like, thanks for your time. And I said, I'm not interested. And immediately she said, I'll take you off of our call list. And I appreciated that. I didn't say take me off, but she did that. And I said, you know what, why don't we connect on LinkedIn? Because I don't know, maybe at some point in the future, I might have somebody who has a question about Salesforce and I can refer them over, and you never know where. And she's like, oh, that's great. And she sent me a note, and in her follow-up email, she said, I looked you up on LinkedIn. Wow, impressive profile. Would love to, stay connected. But it was all like, I had a really good feeling from that cold call versus the other guy. I was like, ugh, like, I'm like, where's his card? Rip, throw away. Like, I was irritated by it,
Yeah.
I went the other direction.
See? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So another question, let's see here. There's a couple more that came in, and I want to kind of get a few more in here. Cool. So can you share, this is a question from Aaron. Greg, can you share the best approach for a sales leader to connect with their sales team when they join a new organization? So let's assume you're onboarding people right now and you're in the times of COVID where we're all staying home, staying safe. We can't meet in person. What are your thoughts there on onboarding new salespeople?
Sure. So there's a couple things, and I'm sure that Aaron and his team currently have a process. That's step one. Most people, they've got it's the old adage of, hey, welcome to the team. There's a telephone and the yellow pages. Go at it. Yep. Okay. I just talked to a former client who left the company and went to another company. And it was amazing, just some of hearing how implemented they were with onboarding. They had, what they did was they had a lot of it was Sandler based, developing your own upfront contract, which I talked about earlier, having, a detailed 30-second commercial. They even did role plays, which I highly recommend. And they role played a telephone call with management, and not just like management, but senior leadership. Wow. So they had to prove that not only are they, because they had a process in place and it was proprietary. So they had videos, they had, learning booklets and all that stuff, but they also had the active action and role play that went along with it. So just some of that is being able to have a process in place to get them to second base. And last but not least, they should have 30, 60, 90-day check-ins, especially when they start off. So you're not just giving the morning huddle and your weekly, but there should be trackable items and then check-ins after 30, 60, and 90 days to see that they're on track.
I love it. And I love how you've got methodology and processes and resources. It's not like all, hokey pokey, like pulling it out of thin air. It's like, there's a structured way of achieving results and performance, and, some really great things to think about there. So let's, I want to kind of start to wrap us up here because we're actually getting to the noon hour. I got to get my Brussels sprouts going. They're not going to cook themselves,
I love it. I love it. This hour has flown.
It has. It really has. So I want to do a couple of quick things here. I'm going to throw your LinkedIn URL up on the screen, and then I'm also going to put your LinkedIn profile up on screen so people can see you. Cool. And are you open to receiving new invitations from folks to connect on LinkedIn, Greg?
Absolutely. Every day, all day. And the one thing I will always ask is, I'm not looking on there to sell. I will ask them about their businesses. Full disclosure. I don't, if you're probably going to ask me about stuff. So I encourage that. And so, yes, anybody that wants to, please let me know too that you saw us together here today on
Yeah.
Brenda's show. Make that plug as well, because I'd appreciate it. And I know Brenda would, but that'll also tell me where you saw me.
Yeah. And I love you guys check out Greg. I don't know if you know, I still use your LinkedIn headline as one of my favorites.
Do you really?
Oh my gosh. Like every time I present to a group and I talk about the importance of your LinkedIn headline, guys, read this. Like when you search for Greg on LinkedIn, I just want to show this real quick on screen. So if I just look for Greg's, on LinkedIn, and can you see this in the drop down? I don't think you can see this in the drop down. You can't. But we can see his headline that says, companies hire me to grow their businesses by 30% over 12 months. Let's talk. It does not say, I'm going to scroll down to your experience section. It does not say partner at Jerry Weinberg and Associates, job title at company. Greg uses an action-filled client, ideal target audience focused message. I mean, like when I look at that, I'm like, wow, I want to hire him. Don't you guys want to hire him? Like, that's awesome. I love it. Yeah, get that in there.
I love it, Brenda.
So there's that. So definitely do mention the session. What I would recommend is in your invitation to connect, it goes something like this. Hi, Greg. I saw you on LinkedIn Live today. You were amazing. Let's connect on LinkedIn. So, stroke his ego a little bit in there.
It'll get you everywhere.
It works. All right, Greg, as we wrap here, any final thoughts for the group today on managing your team's performance or resources, anything you haven't talked about, shout outs you want to give, anything, any of the above?
No, I appreciate it, Brenda. I will say one thing, which I think is important. A lot of times, so I'm gonna shamelessly plug a program that we're doing. We're doing a junior sales academy, and we've heard it from a lot of people and students. So this is primarily for high school seniors and college students who are looking to get into sales. A lot of times we've heard that there's great study programs out there. I know Central Michigan, University of Toledo, Western Michigan, they have sales programs. But the fact is that they're not always able to get, as we like to say, live bullets. So they're not able to have those role plays and those actual interactions. What we're doing is a 10-week program starting June 16th for those students who want to get involved with sales. Once they're done, they'll take the exam, and if they pass, they'll be able to have bronze certification through Sandler, so that when they're going out to a new job opportunity, they'll be Sandler certified. And a lot of times, people that are looking to hire those students, they want to know that they've had some sales background involved. Oh, love it! Look at that.
I'm like, I told you before, I'm like Johnny on the spot. If you talk about it, I'm gonna go and find it. But it's on your website homepage, which I'm gonna drop into comments right now, so people can sign up for that then.
That's perfect. And it's we don't hide from it. It's on the website. It's $14.95, 10 weeks, Sandler certification. High school seniors and college students.
Love it.
And the last thing is we're partnering with Emerge Consulting. So there's my shout out. They're out of Pleasant Ridge, Michigan. And what they have done is with that partnership, they're helping students get better with their resumes and understanding what questions that they might need to not only answer, but ask to hiring managers. So,
awesome. Okay. And for folks that are watching right now, too, Greg, do you know, is your company hiring if there are people who are in career transition who are mesmerized by, your talk here today and love the work that you're doing? Are you guys open? Are you open? Do you have any open positions right now? Do you know?
We do. We are always. So one thing that managers and leaders should always be doing is they should always be in recruitment mode. We are as well. So if there is a sales professional who has had success in the past, who wants to try something that's a little different. I will say it this way. It's like the Peace Corps commercial when we were growing up. It's the toughest job you'll ever love. Yes. I would totally say that, because it is a lot of hard work, but it is incredibly rewarding, and that is an intrinsic reward. And if you're good at it, extrinsic as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Greg. It was such a delight speaking with you today, and I look forward to the day that we can be at a conference or an event again and maybe co-presenting. You're still doing speaking gigs.
I certainly am. And I total ditto to that, Brenda. I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Well, thank you. And thanks for your time today. Stay safe and stay healthy at home, Greg. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the future again.
Sounds great, Brenda. Take care, everyone. Take care, Brenda.
Thank you, guys. And just a reminder before we sign off here today, if you're not already, I'm going to pop my subscription link. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. Okay. So if you're not already subscribing, make sure you go to mellermarketing.com/subscribe. I'll send you a once a week email with a LinkedIn strategy tip. I'll also announce the upcoming LinkedIn Live interviews that I have on the schedule, and upcoming webinars and events and whatnot too. So thank you guys. Stay home, stay safe, stay healthy. Get your Brussels sprouts, eat your greens, and do not eat frogs. I think, did I capture everything?
I think you did. I think you did. Great job, Brenda.
And don't forget the power of the bell, right?
I love it. I love it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Take care, everybody.